Hi guys, welcome back to Mansell Media Corner, and today I'm going to do a ranking of my Survivor Series pay-per-views, what I have got in my collection. Backstory of the Survivor Series: it was the second of the Big Four pay-per-views after WrestleMania, which aired in 1985, but the Survivor Series aired on Thanksgiving Day in 1987. So let's start with a very there's an okay Survivor Series, but you look at the main event: John Cena as a referee. You've got the legend kill himself, the Apex Predator now, Randy Orton, and Wade Barrett for the WWE Championship. But you've only got one traditional Survivor Series match, which is okay, but you've got the World Heavyweight Championship match between Edge and the champion at the time, Kane, and you had the Nexus versus Santino Marella and Vladimir Kozlov, John Morrison and Sheamus. Then you had the 2-on-1 handicap match for the WWE Championship, which is Michelle McCool and Layla versus Natalia. And in an Intercontinental Championship match, Dolph Ziggler versus Cavall, who in TNA told non-stop actions Loki, I think. But you had the Daniel Bryan versus Ted DiBiase versus Maurice for the US Championship. But the special feature, you had the Miz cash in 22nd of November 2010. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of this pay-per-view event. I can understand why a lot of people like it, and that's fair, but I'm not the biggest fan. Then we move to the Survivor Series 1995. Again, this one's a little bit better. You've got a really fun match in the Underdogs: Barry Horowitz, Marty Jannetty, Bob Holly and Hakushi versus the Body Donners, who was Skip, Lad Radford, 1-2-3 Kid, who just turned heel at the time, and Dr. Tom Pritchard. Then he had a really good, really decent women's elimination match. As you can see, you got Bertha Faye and Asha Kong on the same team. Then you had the likes of Goldust versus Bam Bam Bigelow, which is a decent match. Then the Dark Side. Then the final three matches are actually really cool. At the Dark Side, who I think was members of the Undertaker's group behind the scenes. I'm not 100% sure, but it's the Undertaker, Henry Godwin, Savio Vega and Fatu versus the Royals, Triple H himself, Jerry the King Lawler, Isaac Yankem, before he became known as Kane, and King Mabel. But the wild card match, it's pits good guys and bad guys, which is heels and faces, on the same team against each other. So the babyface on the one team is Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson, and the heels are the British Bulldog and Psycho Sid versus the heels are Yokozuna, Owen Hart and Dean Douglas, who a lot of people don't know is Shane Douglas, and the babyface of the the bad guy was around, but he also had a really cool championship match between Diesel and Bret the Hitman Hart. And I've got to say, Bret Hart's one of my all-time favourite wrestlers. Then we've got the first DVD I ever bought to do with WWE. It was WWF, but it's WWE. 2001 Survivor Series, the end of the Alliance. I mean, you look at that team just there. Undertaker, Jericho, The Rock, Big Show and Kane versus Rob Van Dam, Booker T, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon. What a match it is. What a long match, but still a classic matchup. You had Edge versus Test. They had a really good steel cage match between the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys. Of course, the DVD extras are really cool as well. Then we've got Survivor Series 2005, the first Raw vs SmackDown Survivor Series match. Can't really tell who it is, but it's The Undertaker who reappears at this Survivor Series. Again, not the biggest fan of this pay-per-view, but you got Trish Stratus versus Melina. That match isn't that good either. Eric Bischoff versus Theodore Long. We had Chris Benoit versus Booker T. Great set of matches. Ric Flair versus Triple H. John Cena versus Kurt Angle. And you had teamwork comprised of Shawn Michaels, Kane, Big Show, Carlito and Chris Masters versus a strong team of on SmackDown at the time. Batista, Randy Orton, Giant BL, Rey Mysterio and Bobby Lashley. So yeah, that's Survivor Series 2005. And for me, I like this pay-per-view as well, but it's Survivor Series 1991. As you can see some of the highlights of this one. Jake the Snake Robert Spikes, Macho Man Randy Savage, which was at the time a really shocking moment, but time President Jackson, he addressed the situation, but you had a really good Survivor Series match to start with some legends in there. Second match is okay, but the main match for me is The Undertaker's first championship match against then the WWE champion, Immortal Hulk Hogan. But then you have a tease of the Rockers breaking up, and the Rockers and the Bushwhackers versus the Beverly Brothers and the Nasty Boys. They had a really good 6-man elimination, which wasn't meant to have been an 8-man with, I believe it's Sid Justice and Jack the Snake Roberts. But I don't know why Sid wasn't in that match. I think it was some sort of angle, or you got the Hello Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal versus and the Big Boss Man versus natural disasters, which were earthquake and typhoon and IRS. Then we got 2009 Survivor Series with the X on the front cover, Triple H and Shawn Michaels. You can see what a build this is. Main event, John Cena, Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Then you've got The Undertaker, Big Show and Chris Jericho. Really good Survivor Series match as well. Kofi Kingston, MVP Mark Henry, Christian and R-Truth versus Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, Ted DiBiase, CM Punk and William Regal. Really surprising end of that match. But you had a really good opening match as well. John Morrison, Matt Hardy, Finlay, Evan Bourne. I think it's Matt Sydal for AEW. Plus you had also Sultan Benzune versus The Miz, very young Drew McIntyre, Jack Swagger, Sheamus and Dolph Ziggler. You have the all-women's match. Mickie James, Melina Kelly, Kelly Gale, Kim and Eve Torres versus Michelle McCool, Beth Phoenix, Alicia Fox, Layla and Jillian Hall. And you'd have Rey Mysterio versus Batista. Then you'd have 1988. I had this video on VHS, but this is the full pay-per-view. Start with the legendary Ultimate Warrior Brutus, Bob Beefcake, Sam Houston, the Blue Blazer, I think might be an Owen Hart, but I'm not 100% sure. And Jim Brunzell versus the Honky Tonk Man. Dangerous Danny Davis, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Outlaw Bombassa, Bad News Brown. Again, really good match. Sorry about that. But then you'd have a really good tag team elimination. Demolition Loss, Conquistadors, the Brainbusters, which was Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, the Russo Brothers and the Bolsheviks versus the Powers of Pain, which was Warlord and Barbarian, the Rockers, the British Bulldogs, the Hart Foundation and Young Stallions, which is Paul Roman and Jim Powers. That's a classic match. If ever you ever see it on the network, it still is on there. But then you've got Survivor Series elimination match. Jack the Snake Roberts, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Ken Patera, El Matador Tito Santana and Scott Casey versus Andre the Giant, Dina Bravo, the King Harley Race, Mr. Perfect, who I think just came into WWE at the time, and Ravishing Rude. Then you'd have the Mega Powers team versus Twin Towers team nowadays. There's Hulk Hogan, Randy Macho Man Savage, Coco Beware, Hercules and Hillbilly Jim versus Big Boss Man Akeem, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, King Haku and the Red Rooster. Then, following on from that, we've got 1989, so it starts off with the Enforcers versus Dream Team, which is the villains are Big Boss Man, Bad News Brown, the Model Rick Martel and Honky Tonk Man versus the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, Brutus Bob Beefcake, Kel Matador Tito Santana and the Red Rooster. You'd have the Big Boss Man and Slick after the match. As you can see, the King's Court versus the 4x4s, Randy Savage, Greg Valentine, Dina Bravo, and is known as the Canadian Earthquake versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Bret the Hitman Hart, Ronnie Garvin and Hercules. Then you've got the $1 Million Team versus the Hulkamaniacs, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, Powers of Pain, Zeus, was also an actor, versus Hulk Hogan, Jack the Snake Roberts and Demolition. And you've got Rude's Brood versus Body's Rowdies, Ravishing McRude, Mr. Perfect and the Russo Brothers versus Rowdy Roddy Piper, Jimmy Superfly Snuka and the Bushwhackers. And this is also quite of a sad match in a sense, when you realise how bad Andre the Giant was at the time. So it's like the Eden family versus the Ultimate Warriors. The late great Andre the Giant, Haku, Arn Anderson and Bobby the Brain Heenan versus the Ultimate Warrior, Jimmy Anvil Neidhart and the Rockers. So that's 1989. Then a really decent Survivor Series in 2004. Well, I love this cover. It's like comic characterisation of the wrestlers. You've got the likes of Lita versus Trish Stratus, Sheldon Benjamin versus Christian for the Intercontinental Championship, The Taker versus Heidenreich, 4-on-4 Survivor Series, the late great Eddie Guerrero, Big Show, Rob Van Dam and John Cena versus Kurt Angle, Carl Ito, Caribbean Cool, Mark Jindrak and Luther Reigns. At a fatal four-way to start the Shaft Cruiserweight Championship with Chavo Guerrero, Billy Kidman, Rey Mysterio and the champion Spike Dudley. Then the semi-main events, JBL versus Booker T. 4-on-4 Survivor Series main event, Randy Orton, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Maven versus Triple H, Edge, Batista and Jinski. Again, really good pay-per-view. The one which I actually prefer, and a lot of people again are not big fans of, and I can understand. Survivor Series 2006. To start with, you got the opening match, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Ron Simmons, and the Sergeant Slaughter versus Kenny, who's known as Kenny Dykstra, Johnny, Nicky, who's now known as Dolph Ziggler, and Mikey. Then you've got Chris Benoit versus Chavo Guerrero. Then you've got Lita versus Mickie James in a really funny segment with Crime Time. Then you've got a really good match actually, DX, which is Shawn Michaels and Triple H, CM Punk and the Hardy Boys versus Rated RKO, which is Randy Orton and Edge. Johnny Nitro's John Morrison, Mike Knox and Gregory Helms after he became the Hurricane. And you'd have Undertaker versus Mr. Kennedy in the First Blood match. And he got traditional Survivor Series elimination match, which is John Cena, Kane, Bobby Lashley and Sabu and Rob Van Dam versus Big Show, Test, MVP, Finlay and Umaga. And then the main event, King Booker versus Batista. Again, really good pay-per-view. Then let's start from the 1987. Craig DeJours, who was, I think he wasn't in the WWE that long, but he was like the Mean Gene Okerlund, then we'd be doing like backstage. You'd have the King Harley Race, Hercules, Danny Davis, Outlaw Ron Bass and the Honky Tonk Man versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Brutus, Barber Beefcake, Jack the Snake Roberts, Axel Jim Duggan and Randy Macho Man Savage. And you've got Andre and his team. Really good female match as well. And Glamour Girls, Dawn Marie, Don Cristanello and Sensational Sherry versus Velvet McIntyre, Rockin' Robin, Jumping Bomb, Angels and the Fabulous Moolah. You got the Heartbound House team comprised of the Bolsheviks, Melissa Richards, Action Smash, the Dream Team with, I think, Dino Bravo. I think it was Greg the Hammer Valentine. I'm not 100% sure. The Islanders, which are Hacker and Tarmac, and the Hart Foundation, which is Bret the Hitman Hart and Jimmy and Von Neidhart versus the British Bulldogs, the Young Stallions, the Rizzo Brothers, the Killer Bees and Strike Force, which is Tito Santana and Rick Model Martel. And you've got Ted DiBiase Thanksgiving. The main event's a classic. Andre the Giant vs. Ravishing Rick Rude, King Kong Bundy, Natural But Freedom, One Man Gang versus Mortal Hulk Hogan, Bam Bam Bigelow, Ken Patera, the Magnificent Don Morocco, and Mr. Wonderful Paul Waldorf. Then we've got the Survivor Series 2014. As you can see, the one and only Survivor Series appearance, and the man, the myth, the legend, the icon, Sting. And on the front cover you've got Triple H, John Cena, and a very grumpy looking Stephanie McMahon. As you can see, there's a bit of spoiler there between Sting and Triple H, but the main event match is classic. It made Seth Rollins a serious wrestler as far as I'm concerned. And in this match you've got the main event, you've got the likes of Rusev, Mark Henry, Seth Rollins, the late great Luke Harper versus John Cena, Dolph Ziggler, right back in the Big Show. But again, really good pay-per-view. You got Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt. But that was the end of the Authority. But what a great match it was in the main event. Then we've got Survivor Series 2008. You can't really tell, but it's really good. Really good cover. It's a steelbook as well. So I believe I got from Woolworths. Woolworths at the time, I would have thought would have sold steelbooks, but you've got a really great traditional Survivor Series match. with Shawn Michaels, Rey Mysterio, Great Khali in Crime Time versus JBL, Kane, MVP, The Miz and John Morrison, and you've got a Raw versus SmackDown with likes of Beth Phoenix, Mickie James, Kelly, Candice, Michelle and Jillian Hall versus Michelle McCool, Maria, Maurice, Natalia and Victoria. And then you've got an interview with Matt Hardy, Undertaker versus Big Show in the casket match, Carlito, Primo and Brie Bella. The gobbledygook who was the boogeyman in disguise. They got Randy Orton, Stu Miches, Cody Rhodes, William Regal, Shelton Benjamin and Mark Henry versus likes of Batista, CM Punk, Kofi Kingston, R-Truth and Matt Hardy. And you've got Triple Threat, Edge versus Vladimir Kozlov versus Triple H, and John Cena versus Chris Jericho for the WWE Championship. And special feature, you got The Undertaker versus Jeff Hardy match. Then I know again a lot of people in the comments are gonna say Undertaker was a big moment, and it is, but there's 3 more Survivor Series shows to go, but you've got the likes of, to start with, this is a 1990 Survivor Series. You've got the Perfect Team versus the Ultimate Warriors, Demolition with his axe, Smash and Crush and Mr. Perfect versus Texas Tornado, Road Warriors with the Hawk and Animal, and the Ultimate Warriors, then the WWE Champion. Got the $1 Million Dream. This is where you get the first ever Undertaker debut. You've got the likes of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, Coco Beware and the Hart Foundation versus Rhythm and Blues, Greg the Hammer Valentine and the Honky Tonk Man, $1 Million Man, and at the time it was a surprise who came out, but it's the legendary The Phenom, The Undertaker, and Vipers, which is a decent Survivor Series match. The Visionaries, which are the Model Rick Martel, Power and Glory, Richard Paul, Roman Hercules, and the Warlord versus Jake the Snake Roberts, the Rockers and Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and the Hulkamaniacs. Hulk Hogan, the Big Boss Man, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and the Tugboat versus the Natural Disasters, which was Earthquake, Dino Bravo, Haku and Barbarian. And you got the Survivor Series Elimination match, which is Nikolai Volkov, El Matador, Tito Santana, and the Bushwhackers Luke and Butch versus Sergeant Slaughter, Bobby Shukov, and the Orient Express, which is, I think it's, I can't remember if it's Ido and I can't remember now, the Orient Express. I think it's who the member of this Orient Express was, but what makes this match, what makes this pay-per-view, you've got the likes of the W, the Gobbledygooker, but also you'd have like I was saying earlier about the babyface and heel, so you'd have the Survivor Series. I say like in the matches you'd have Ultimate Warrior versus Undertaker versus Rick Martel, Power and Glory and Warlord versus Tito Santana and Hulk Hogan. It's also one of the early pins of Shane McMahon as a referee. So yeah, that's in the show, which I actually enjoy. Survivor Series 2019. That's the main event. That was when Becky Lynch was over, as far as I'm concerned. Shayna Baszler representing the NXT at the time. Bayley then in SmackDown. Brock Lesnar versus Rey Mysterio. And The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. So I love the character and Daniel Bryan. Get that for an image. Candice LeRae, Io Sky, then it was known as Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley, and Sasha Banks. And you got a really good match there. That match is awesome. That match is great too, but you've got likes of this match, Roderick Strong, AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. And you've got a really fun triple threat Survivor Series with Seth Rollins representing Raw, Tommaso Ciampa representing NXT, Roman Reigns representing SmackDown. Okay, and that's the main event. You got Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan. Yet again, I love this pay-per-view, and I also think Seth Rollins is one of the best wrestlers out at the moment in the WWE. Then we've got Survivor Series 2016. main evented by Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg. The really awesome semi-main event, one of the best Survivor Series matches. You'd have Y2J, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens and Braun Strowman representing Raw versus the champion AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Shane McMahon, Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt. What a hell of a match it is. You can see there. You'd have Team Raw to be Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Nia Jax and Alicia Fox taking on Nikki Bella, Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Naomi and Carmella. You'd have a tag team elimination as well. I think they mistook on Baron Corbin or something like that, but that's but no means least. Absolute classic pay-per-view from 2003. You can see you've got the Basson Brothers versus Eddie and Chavo Guerrero, Molly Holly versus Lita. Awesome Survivor Series match to start with. Like Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Hardcore Holly Bradshaw and it's just her babyface John Cena versus Brock Lesnar, Big Show, Nathan Jones, Matt Morgan and A-Train. Of ambulance match, Shane versus Kane McMahon. Shane McMahon versus Kane, pardon. Buried Alive match versus The Undertaker and Mr. McMahon. Goldberg versus Triple H. But what a classic Survivor Series match, seeing Shawn Team Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Team Eric Bischoff. So that's the Survivor Series ranking. Please like, share and subscribe. And I'm going to give a couple of shout outs to members of the wrestling channels. 2004 Punk. It's got like nearly every WWE DVD Blu-ray ever. He's got like limited editions, and we got Beatdown Bunny, who's a really cool dude. Nathan the Wrestling Guy. And then of course the legendary Tweet Wrestling. So yeah, please like, share and subscribe in the comments below. And tell me what is some of your Survivor Series great moments. Bye for now.